Hi everybody, this is Heather Swatala with Agresti Real Estate. I am an appraiser and realtor. I've been an appraiser at Agresti for over 10 years and I started selling as a realtor about 5 years ago. And today we are here to cover why we cover all Today we will be covering all you need to know about home inspections. Steve Gerton and I will answer the most frequently asked questions as well as any questions you may have along the way. Just feel free to post your questions in the comments and we will answer them as best we can. I've been with Agresti for about 10 years and the reason I became also a real estate agent is because I saw the growth and I just love homes and I love everything to do with real estate. I love working with buyers and sellers. I love working with the public. I just love everything about homes. It makes me want to buy a new house every day, pretty much. So.
Hi, my name is Steve Gerton. I am the owner and inspector of Barn Owl Home Inspections in Erie, PA. And we started our business about 4 years ago, me and my wife. We got into the business basically as a side business and it has really taken off and we've been doing really good. Thanks a lot to Agresti Real Estate. I was in construction work for about 25 years and then transitioned over into more industrial maintenance work, doing that sort of stuff. So I've been around construction and houses pretty much all my life. We've been in business for a little over 3 years now. And hopefully I can make this my permanent job and not have to go to work anymore. I enjoy meeting the people, looking at the houses. It's very interesting and very fun to do. I enjoy it a lot. So we got some questions here that we're going to answer, and then if you do have any questions, feel free to comment or question, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can.
Thank you both for coming. Heather, the first question is for you. What is a home inspection, and when does it typically occur during the home buying process?
So a home inspection is, you elect it when you are making an offer. So you find a house that you like and you have your agent write up an offer for you. And at that time, they will ask you, there's various different inspections that you can ask for, and you pick the ones that you want, and your agent can help you choose the ones that would work or pertain to that property that you're looking at. So that happens in the beginning when you're making your offer. You choose the inspections that you want, and then a little bit down the road, once they accept your offer, usually you have, normally I put 15 days to get your inspections completed. You want to get them out as soon as possible. Steve's really good at getting out quickly. That's why I like to pick Barn Owl Home Inspections, because after you get your inspection, it's usually you have the report the next day. You have to go over it with your buyers and review the things that they find, and sometimes you need to get some quotes on like repairs or have questions for contractors. So you want to normally get your inspections done within 15 days after having your offer accepted. It's best to get it done, within a couple of days. There's water purity tests now. If there's well water, that can be a little bit of a lengthy process because you have to send the samples away to a lab, and that could take like 7 to 10 business days. So if you're getting a water well purity test, then you want to get that done as soon as possible. So it happens pretty early on, usually within the first couple weeks of the transaction. You have that's the inspection process. It's one of the first hurdles that you kind of want to get over during the negotiation process.
Great. And why does someone need a home inspection when they're buying a home?
Well, a home inspector, they are people that are qualified usually above and beyond, well, it should be above and beyond, the normal eye. I like to think that I can see a few things, but I definitely will not say that I know as much as a home inspector. So the normal everyday person does not, have the background in construction or is not visiting homes every day, for your career. So you're not going to see usually everything that a home inspector can see. That is why they're there. They're trained to look for specific things that, a normal person usually will not catch. So, it's like you're buying a house, and it's the biggest investment of your life for the most part. So you want to make sure that there's no material defects that you can't see or that you're just not aware of. And that's why you want to get like a professional in there to just go over everything and make sure everything's, kosher. You're not seeing anything that's going to down the road detract, take value off of your home or cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to repair, and possibly make it so you can't resell your home if you had to. So you want to have that safeguard to make sure that you're getting into something, the most important investment of your life, and you want to make sure that everything is good with it, that you're not going to, have regrets later or problems down the road. So I think a home inspector is like the perfect solution to check things that, to protect your money and your investment, basically.
Excellent. Steve, it's your turn for questions.
All right.
What is covered during a home inspection, and what does you as a home inspector look for?
The general home inspection covers basically the whole structure of the house. I normally start on the outside. We look at the terrain, how the ground is sloping to the house or away from the house. We check the roof, we check the foundation, we check the rain gutters, siding, windows, paint, everything that pertains to the outside of the house we look at. Then we move to the inside, and I usually start at the top. I start at the attic or the highest part in the house I can get to, and we come down through the house and we see structural concerns we're looking for. If there's outlets that aren't wired right, lights hanging out of the ceiling, that sort of stuff. If there's cracks in the walls, a lot of times, a lot of the older houses in Erie have plaster walls and they tend to crack up. And a lot of people worry about that and think, that the house is going to fall down when it could just be that the plaster is 100 years old, and houses shift from time to time. I mean, they're going to move a little bit. As far as, what we look at specifically, is we look at the roof, we look at the HVAC system, we look at the electrical system, the plumbing system, make sure all of the big ticket items that are going to cost you a lot of money to replace or repair are in operating order, working properly, and not just falling apart. You want to make sure everything is good in the house.
Great. Should I attend the home inspection, and how long does it normally take?
So we have a lot of people that ask us if they should come to the home inspection, and you really don't have to, but we prefer that you do. It's not a requirement that you have to be there, but it is a lot easier on me and the buyer if they're there. That way, if we do find an issue, if there is any issues, we can talk about it while we're there. And that makes them, when they get their report, it makes it a whole lot easier for them when they get their report, because they don't see something in the report and wonder what in the world is going on. They kind of have a heads up of what we found while we were there. And typically, depending on the house and how much the client likes to talk and how much I like to talk, it usually takes anywhere between 1 and 2 hours to go through a house. Of course, if it's a huge house, it may take a little longer, but typically in an hour to 2 hours.
I like to be there as well, just because it's way easier to be in the process, and as you go through, Steve will point things out to you, and then you can ask questions while you're right there looking at the possible problem, rather than just getting like a sheet of paper with pictures and and words on it saying all these problems. It's better to like kind of be in the midst of it and hear it out and like go, discuss it with the inspector while you're there. So also as an agent, it helps me to be there. So when the buyers, if they want a repair, that I know like basically what we're asking for, that I know what we're talking about, that I know what I'm asking for from the seller. So I feel like it's very it's very advantageous to have the buyers and the agent there, so we're all on the same page. And Steve does a great job of explaining, what we're looking at while we're there. So,
What's the typical cost of a home inspection? What's included in that cost?
So the general home inspection is, we charge $300 for the general home inspection for a single family home. We charge a little more for multifamily, of course, because it's basically doing more than one inspection at the time. We also do radon inspections, or radon tests. Sorry, not inspections, radon test. That is $125. We do well, like Heather was talking about earlier, water samples. We charge $130 for that. And then we also do pest inspections for wood destroying organisms, termites, wood bees, wood beetles, that sort of thing, and we charge $75 for that.
Great. And what's all included in the initial cost?
The initial cost is the general home inspection, where we just go through the house and look at all the structural, all the stuff we talked about earlier, the plumbing, the electrical, and that stuff.
Great. What's the difference between a home inspector, a code enforcer, or a structural engineer?
So in PA, in Pennsylvania, the home inspectors, we are certified. We're not licensed per se like they are in New York State. In New York State, you have to get an actual license from the state. In Pennsylvania, you get certified. Once you're certified, then you have to be a member of one of the 4 home inspector associations in the United States. So, we do not go to school like a structural engineer would. We take online classes, continuing education classes online to stay up with the newest building stuff, the newest building materials, newest building practices, but we don't go to school to determine what the load of the house is on the foundation and that sort of stuff. And, so when I do see a problem with a foundation or in a basement where it's got cracking in the wall, then I always make sure to tell the client, that I'm not a structural engineer. I can give you my opinion on what I think, just from my experience. But, a lot of times I will tell them, you probably should get somebody that works on basement walls every day to look at something like that. And now a code enforcement officer, there's building codes, plumbing codes, electrical codes that contractors have to follow all the time. And they have code enforcement officers for each one of those trades. And we are not code enforcement officers. And actually in the standards of practice for the Home Inspectors Association, we're told not to quote codes to the clients, because we're not code enforcement officers and we don't want them to think that we can do everything.
Yeah, these are good questions. We have a few coming in, and I really appreciate all that information that you're having. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say while these questions are rolling in?
I did just want to put it out there that Barn Owl Home Inspections will be offering a $25 discount on the general home inspection for the rest of the month of September. If you mentioned you saw this, me and Heather here on Facebook Live today.
this is our moment. Thank you, Steve, for all of that helpful information. Another common question I have that I get as a real estate agent. So after you have your negotiations and you elect your home inspection and then you get your inspections done, once you get the report back and you're reading, if there's things that are, suggested that they be repaired, if there's immediate problems that should be repaired, or just regular maintenance items, all these things are listed and categorized. So what happens once you get that inspection report back and you're working with your agent? So we get the inspection report usually the next day. I like to go over the whole report with my clients and get their thoughts and feelings on it, and pretty kind of like go through and pick and choose, or just go through each item that's flagged, or suggestions, and see what if they want to either ask for repairs to be done. That's called, and then we make what's called a reply to inspections. We would make a list of repairs that you would like corrected, and you sign it and send it to the sellers, and hopefully they do everything on your list. Another option is to ask sometimes people in lieu of making repairs to a property. If it's some things, there's nothing like really pressing, no immediate safety issues, just some maintenance items. Sometimes, you're going to have to do those maybe down the road or in the next year. Sometimes buyers will just like a reduction in sale price. So that's an option you can have too. I recently just had people asked for $5,000 to be taken off the sale price, and the sellers were more than willing to do that. So that's how we did it that way. Then the third option would be to just terminate the agreement, and that happens sometimes too. You can get into a house and just not see, things happen that you weren't expecting, and it kind of changed your feeling on the house, or you just do something's making you feel uncomfortable. That's always an option too, is to terminate the inspection. Part of the reason that you get an inspection contingency, the key word is contingent. Your offer is contingent on that inspection. So if you don't like the inspections, then if the house, that you can back out and get your deposit back. So inspections are another way to safeguard basically your deposit and give you like a deeper look into the house, and that inspection contingency kind of protects your deposit too. So there's lots of ways to get through the inspection process. There's lots of options. So usually, the agents and the buyers and sellers all work together, and our goal is to make sure that everybody's happy in the end. The seller's happy and the buyer's happy. Those are the most important people, and as long as they're happy, then however they get to being happy, that's what we do.
We did have one come in. What's the difference between an appraisal and a home inspection?
Okay, that's a good one. So an appraisal is basically if you're getting a loan from a bank, they want to verify that, this is for a purchase I'm talking about. They want to verify that the money that they're lending, the house is worth the money that they're lending you to buy the house. So they then send me to do an appraisal. I do, it's called an inspection, but the way that we put it is that I do a complete visual inspection. So I go through and, I look at some things. I do look at foundation, roofs, all that. It's not the same in-depth inspection as a home inspector would do. A home inspector is more of, they call it a physically exhaustive inspection, whereas appraisal is more just like a visual inspection. So there is a big difference, and I think that a lot of times people get confused on that. They feel like, well, I'm going to have an inspection done by the appraiser. Well, that's not the same. My inspection is more so to check the value of a home, where a home inspector is more to look for like material defects and things, make sure everything's good with all your big ticket and small ticket items. So they're very different, sort of the same in the way we go and look for things. I see more like obvious things, like, if I see it when I'm looking in a room, but we don't crawl inside crawl spaces. We don't climb on top of roofs. We don't take the panel off of the cover off the electric panel. It's not as in-depth. So that is a very good thing to make sure the difference is known. Appraisers basically check for that the value's there, more so than looking for material defects in a home.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have today. Thank you both so much for your time. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope you try Agressi. Have a great
Try
rest of the day.
Agressi.
Try
Happy
Farnell.
Friday. Yeah, try